torches.
Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're playing Conan Exiles. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and salutations. Today we're going through a quick introduction of Conan Exiles. Let's get to it. Conan Exiles was released May 8th, 2018. It was in early access for the PC for almost a year prior to the official launch date. Now, that was more of a, I'd like to say a beta than early release. So there was a lot of things that changed. So even if you had early access to Conan Exiles, there's probably a lot that's changed. And of course, now it's available on Xbox and PlayStation 4. Now you'll start off by creating a character. Well, even before you create a character, you have to choose between offline and online. So if you just want to play by yourself or with another friend in co-op, you can do so. If you're playing online, then you have to choose between PvP and PvE. PvP, you'll be able to attack other players, and other players will be able to attack you. Like this server here, which is a PvP server. Early on, I ran into another player. They had aggroed one of these mutants. So I had a slight advantage, even though they had a dedicated weapon. So, even right after you start off, you'll be able to make some rudimentary clothes, some coarse clothing, just by picking up plant fiber and stones along the path in the desert leading up to this type of area here where it's a little bit more forested. Now you can make some tools, a hatchet, you can make a pickaxe. Now those are more tools for collecting resources and not so much weapons, although they will work in a pinch when you don't have anything else. Now when you are able to make a dedicated weapon, make that weapon and use that when you're in a conflict with another player or NPCs. There we go. I don't know if I took him out or the mutant took him out, but in a PvP arena, you're able to take whatever you want after you kill someone or after someone dies, depending on how they die. And on the PS4, in order to equip weapons and armor, weapons, when you have it selected on your inventory, you hold your L1 button to bring up the weapon wheel or item wheel, I guess, and then just choose a spot for it and hit X, and then there it is. Armor is relatively straightforward. You can just go, it'll automatically, the first time that you make something, it'll automatically go into the slot that it belongs. After that, it'll go into your inventory, and then you just hit square, and then it'll equip it. If you have too many items, everything has a weight to it, you'll be over encumbered, and you won't be able to run. So you'll not only have to you have to kind of juggle all these different aspects. So you have thirst, you have hunger, so you need to make sure that you are close enough to a water source that you can get water when you start getting thirsty. Food, you need to gather food. Eggs are excellent source of food early on before you have a lot of recipes to craft different things. So once you run out of eggs, or once you're able to craft a campfire, then you'll want to craft a campfire, and all that feral meat and other meat that you've been getting, you'll want to make a campfire and cook it, because raw meat will give you food poisoning, which will reduce your health. Whereas cooked food and things like eggs and insects, they will increase your health. So once you eat one of those food items, you'll start getting some health regen, and that is really the only way to do it in the beginning. Perhaps in the entire game, but certainly at the beginning, that's the only way to regenerate your health. Now, when you go up to another player's house in PvP or PvE, if you don't own that building, if you did not build it, you do not have rights to interact with it. So it'll say, you don't own this, so you cannot open the door. One of the interesting things about the PvP servers, there is only a certain window where you can attack other players' buildings. You can attack other players whenever you want if they're out in the open, but if they're inside their house, then they are safe, except for that window of time, those few hours a day, in which you're allowed to attack other people's buildings. So if you're going to be dedicated to playing this game basically solo for an extended period of time, then I would recommend going into the PvP server, because the people that are dedicating 2+ hours per day every day to playing, they're going to start leading, and you're going to start to see a gap between their level of their encampment level, how much they have built, what they're able to do, the types of weapons and armor that they have. It's going to be readily apparent that you are not able to do anything about it. They're going to keep progressing, and you're not going to have a chance against them. So if you are willing to dedicate that amount of time, certainly go and do the PvP server. It appears to be and looks to be a lot of fun. If you're going to play this more casually, I would say do the PvE. There are still some situations where it could be a problem, but more than likely that'll be fine. And then, if nothing else, you can play co-op or play offline by yourself. And if you're new to survival games or new to this game, you can certainly consider doing that as a first option. Play offline or play co-op with a friend who also has the game. Now, since this is a PvP server, each server has a maximum number of 40 players. And the servers went online at a specific time, and as they fill up, I think they're bringing more servers online. But the ping may not be as good as some of the early servers. But like I said, these people that have started as soon as the server was up, they're going to have a lead on you if you are starting now. So it's best to join a new server, so you're more or less on a level playing field. If you do join a server that's already established, just know that you're going to be at a distinct disadvantage for anyone that has been playing for any length of time, and especially people that have been dedicating a lot of time to building up their resources in their base. Now, this is a very deep kind of RPG. You have a lot of different inventory items. You start off with just picking up plant fiber and stone, and then you pick up some eggs or some insects or some seeds, and as you go along you start picking up and harvesting new and different resources. Some of the resources are very important, and you don't realize how important some of the resources are until you start getting new recipes for crafting materials and crafting different things, that you realize all of a sudden that certain resources are in demand, and some resources more than others. So in the beginning, you need to make sure that you do not die from starvation or thirst. So if you spend a lot of time in the desert, you're going to start to get thirsty. You're going to need to make a beeline for the water. Just get close to the water, aim for it, and then just hit the interact button, and then you should see your thirst meter go up. Food, you either have to kill animals and cook the meat, get eggs, or get insects while you're harvesting plant fiber from bushes. Other things like seeds, those will be useful later on when you're able to use them to make other things. So you'll have to have some crafting skill in order to do that. And you can have minions, and minions are very important, especially in PvP, because those minions will help guard your house or your village while you're offline. So like I said, this is a very deep RPG. It's not something that you're going to pick up and you're going to play for 30 minutes and then say, well, that was a good game, and then start a new game. No, it's ongoing. It keeps going on. So if you've played a game like Fortnite, this is nothing like that, other than there are PvP and PvE instances. This is much closer to Ark or survival games like that, where you have to, or Don't Starve, where you have to pick up things and you have to craft everything. You start off with absolutely nothing, and you have to build up from there. Now, what I've seen so far is that there is a fairly deep building and crafting system. And when you go through, and if you die, you have to go back to that very beginning spawn point in the desert. So when you die, you have to go back to that spawn point, original spawn point. If you are able to make a bed or a bedroll, then you can update your spawn point to that location. So even if you're not in a necessarily great area, you can maybe, if you've traveled a long distance, you can make a bedroll so that you at least don't have to travel all the way back in order to go and pick up your stuff. Now, if you died from a NPC that is somewhat troublesome, it may be best just to start over. If you had some item in your inventory that you just can't go without and it was difficult to get, then you'll have to figure out a way to come back and grab your stuff. Because after you die, you respawn with, once again, nothing. So every time you die, you have to start over with nothing until you can pick up everything from your body wherever you happen to have died previously. If you have a bedroll, you will respawn there. So it's best to have at least one bedroll so you can respawn very quickly and close to where you end up dying. As you level up, make sure that you're spending your ability points. Go to the Attributes tab. Strength increases melee damage. Agility determines how you move with different armor types, so the higher your agility and the heavier your armor, you'll have fewer movement restrictions. Vitality is your health, so the more vitality you have, the more health you have. Accuracy is your range damage, so the more accuracy you have, the more range damage you do. Grit increases your stamina. Encumbrance increases the amount of stuff in your inventory that you can carry at one time. And survival increases your ability to metabolize food. And I read that as the food that you eat, the higher your survival is, the more it actually fills up your hunger bar or hunger meter. So in the beginning, strength, vitality, encumbrance, and survival are all very, very important. As you decide your play style and what works best for you, then you can determine what you want to put your points into, to specialize into one thing or another, or maybe divide it between 2 or 3 attributes. In addition to attributes, you also get the ability to put points into new crafting abilities. So go over to your feats tab and you'll be able to put points into these new crafting recipes. It'll expand what you're able to make and the types of armor and weapons that you can make and different things that you can make. They do have prerequisites. The first ones don't really have anything, but as you go along, you'll have to have prerequisites, so you'll have to craft certain items before you can put points into new crafting recipes. Now, sooner or later, you will come across a sandstorm, or a sandstorm will come across you. Hopefully by that time you will have a building to hide in when it comes, because if you're out in the open, it will damage you and it will kill you. And it is difficult to see, even with a torch. So your best bet is if you see a sandstorm coming, go ahead and find shelter. Now you can find shelter just by being in kind of a protected area, like behind a cliff wall or some taller rocks, something that will protect you from that sandstorm. If you have a house, even better. Now once you find an area that you like, that you want to build on, you'll need to harvest lots and lots of rocks. Lots of stone, lots of wood. You'll need to start off by crafting foundations. So if you're going to build, say, sandstone, you need to build the foundation first, and you can raise or lower the foundation from where the ground's at. You don't have to put it directly at ground level where the grass is kind of poking through, like I did here. If you just want to do a base house, that's great. You know, if you want to do something fancier, that's great as well, but you may want to hold off on that until a little bit later on when you have the luxury of resources, because it will require a lot of resources in order to build a house of any size. And you can get quite fancy with the types, because it can be any number of levels tall. You can have stairs going up all the way up to the top, so you can create a tower or a spire or a pyramid or a English manor, or any number of styles. The only thing you can't really have is a basement. You can't dig under the ground and create an area of your building there. It all has to be above ground. Now, if you're in an area that is more or less hilly, then you can have a, what you might consider to be a below ground area, even though it's not truly below ground. It's just below ground compared to some of the other areas. So once you get enough resources, and I'm just getting a bunch of stone because you absolutely need it. Even for a small area, I think I did a 2 by 4, 3 by 4 area, something like that. And you know, you're talking about hundreds of stone just for that. So you have different types. You have wedges, which will do like a triangle. You have the squares. So you don't have to have a fully, you know, Minecraft type of house. You can make whatever you want. And then you can have ceiling or roof. And you can have the slanted roof. Or you can have a flat ceiling. It's whatever that you want to build. And once you get to an area where you're going to build, then you're going to want to start building wooden boxes as well, because that will help kind of categorize your inventory, so you don't have to hold everything all the time. Very important, because you can't hold everything, because you'll end up having too much stuff and you'll be overburdened. So with building a building, you have to start with a foundation. You cannot have just walls put up. So I tried to do a wall here, and it said, oh, nope, you can't do that. It has to connect to another piece. So a wall has to connect to the foundation or to another wall if you're building a multi-story building. But that's it. So if you're interested in the game, certainly go check it out. I've got several more minutes here of gameplay that you can check out. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll see you next time.